Trying to
Welcome to another show, the Beyond Sets and Reps podcast. I have a special guest. We call her Britt. She
get.
can tell us who she is. And Britt, what is going on? How are you doing? How's everything with your life?
I'm good. I am had a great week, and a start to the week was you being on my new talk series. So that was very exciting, and I believe a huge success based on the feedback of some of these coaches.
That's good. That's good. That's good. I tried to show up and deliver for you. So you had this crazy idea to do something special. But I want to go backwards. Let's
Okay.
let's get to know Britt a little bit. What makes her her, and where did you start in this profession? And were you an athlete, coaching, or what you're doing now? And we'll get there. But let's
Yep.
go back a little bit.
Well, I want to first thank you for letting me be on this podcast. And a part of me when he first asked was like, why would you have me on here? Um, I Well, where did I start? What's my background? I was a former college athlete. I played soccer at Clemson. Graduated fall of 2013. I'll do a quick, I can maybe go into depth a little bit here and there, but let's see, after graduating fall 2013, I spent 4 years at Play Flooring. I got hired by Sorinex in January 2018, and I've been there ever since. And that sounds like the simplest rundown, but there's a lot in each of those tiny little windows that led me to where I am right now, and how, you and I have built a relationship, and um, all of my experiences in the past kind of led me to starting what my professional development talks are.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I'll start back in college. Entering my fifth year of preseason, our weight room was being renovated by Play and Sorinex, which was my first introduction to like anything in this world. I wasn't planning on being a strength coach. I adored my strength coach. But I almost didn't even have an opportunity to think about what I was going to do post college, because Dennis Love, was director of Olympic sports at the time. He introduced me to the owner at Play during our renovation, and between two-a-days that preseason, I had a formal interview, in his office, and that's where my career actually began.
Wow.
Uh, so. I was the athlete who adored the weight room. The second our team walked into those doors, that's where I became a leader. I was never a 90-minute player. I knew there were different roles to play and help the team. So I think D Love knew that would be this whole industry would be a good place for me to at least try. Um, there's definitely a lot I want to share in regards to D Love and my story as an athlete. Um, Preparing for this podcast gave me some time to unpack really a much deeper reason of why I care so much. Because I wasn't a strength coach. I never claimed to be a strength coach, but we can get into that a little maybe after I finish the base timeline. But spent 4 years at Play learning about the industry, starting at a smaller company, seeing it flourish. My big girl career in all this and experiences started there, and it's cool to see where both companies have grown between Sornex and Play. And I covered the Southeast area for the most part and had a lot of government projects,
Hmm.
working with Bert and Phil and the Sornex guys, and it naturally meshed with everyone there. So back then, I was just a kid absorbing everything I possibly could, driving endlessly to meet coaches and make a name for myself. And you being at Arkansas State, I mean, there was times where I would leave Atlanta, which is where I lived at the time, and post college, I would do a stop everywhere I went. So I'd like go through Birmingham, then I'd make my way to um, Oxford and then Memphis, and then I would go all the way to Jonesboro. I remember I had like the first trip to Jonesboro. I mean, this was like an 8-day trip, and I stopped everywhere, then went down, and then came all the way back to Atlanta. Um, it was I had so many years on the road, and just I think I called myself, this is back when like Instagram was first you didn't have a ton of social media just yet, but I remember calling myself like the barbell gypsy. Um, which because I drop into millions of CrossFits every night, endlessly, and meet random people and see people in other communities and meet other coaches in the private sector just because I dropped into the CrossFit gym. And um it was a wild young time with no end in sight because I really wasn't chasing anything other than like what my job was at the time. And when you're 24, you're just kind of like, I don't know yet. We're just figuring it out. But I was the youngest on staff at Play, so without any kids or real responsibilities, I did a ton of the strength clinic, the weekend strength clinics. Oh my gosh, the places I've been in, there's these great, oh my gosh, some of these people could t tell you the same thing. There was this is just a quick snippet, but I had a hammer strength clinic in Rio Grande, Texas, which is a border town of Texas and Mexico. And it was one week after this extreme cartel, uh, like there were hangings on sorry, this is a little deep, but there's like hangings on the bridge. I ended up getting escorted the whole weekend by Border Patrol while I was there for a high school strength clinic. And I was 24, just, you know, I was just going to serve coffee and like listen to some coaches talk. Uh, so it's funny just how what happens early on, and where you have no idea where you'll end up. But it wasn't about chasing money. There was no end game. I was just traveling all over the place. And this is where, post, so those 4 years at Play, building a relationship with Sorinex a little bit and doing a lot of projects with them. This is where my story becomes a little more sentimental because there came some opportunities to take jobs at other equipment companies, but I really wanted to be, um, I just really wanted to be a part of something way bigger than myself. And you can attest to this. I remember my first few summer strongs were ridiculous in the best ways. Way smaller than they are now. I mean, I think I would guess maybe 100 people were at uh the my first summer strong in what was that, 2013, 2014. Um they were full of those coming to Jesus moments. And coach, you get it. You remember those. And it wasn't it wasn't just, you're not just going there and li listening about speed training or neck development, which again, I wasn't ever a coach and never aspired to be on that end. So all these clinics that I went to was just like, I'm just sitting there in the background listening and like talking to the GAs of the interns that had to be, but like didn't really, were just having a good time. And I just felt lucky once I started going to Summer Strong, building the circle of the people who are around Sorinex, I guess you could say. I just felt lucky to be in the circle, so to speak. No matter the next step in my career, after consistently putting myself around those people, I knew that my next step, I had a certain standard in my mind for who would meet that. I don't think I ever thought I would work at Sorinex. I just knew that that concept and that love of the iron game, and just having such like a deep care for uh the strength training behind it, but like maybe not the strength training behind it, but pops is, I mean, it's a way of life. It is not, sorry, I think my husband's calling me. Didn't turn on silent. um so Flash forward to CSCCA in 2017. I kid you not, Bert walked by me at the conference and said, "When you're ready, we're ready," and proceeded to keep walking after that. It was this like crazy man, it was this crazy Mandalorian style moment, and I knew he meant it. Yes, it was, and I mean, I'm 26 maybe at that point, and it took me probably 4 months to get my Rhine right and call him, but to say I was ready. Now, I don't recommend to any listeners. I don't recommend just waiting it out and hoping for the best, but I was just so young and nervous. I knew he meant it, but I didn't know. I was very committed to where I was too, and I think as a college athlete, you always have a deeper meaning in the things that you do. There's a part of you that um, you know that even if stuff's not perfect, that you have to stick it through, or and I mean that's also what makes us who we are. I mean, you were a pro athlete, and you've obviously, I mean, you have the whole history of this. It's there's just something in us that wants to stay committed. So it just took me a while to really understand what that opportunity, how great of an opportunity that was. Um, so when I first got hired, I started the groundwork for the flooring division, helping us kind of build a full scope option for weight rooms. That was really the starting point when I think we had sold some flooring right before I had got there, but it was like, okay, well now you're the person who kind of knows more. So what do we do? And I'm so young, and I'm like, hey, call some people. I don't know. I learned a million things on what to do, what not to do, what it takes to really earn a seat at the table. And that really feels like a lifetime ago. But I'm very proud of how it started and the lessons that Bert and Nelson trusted me to figure out along the way. I think Bert has a way of bringing people together. The team that I mean, we all have different strengths and weaknesses, but there's the trust that we're all doing it for the right reasons, that no matter what, that's the groundwork of us growing together and uh starting with a very solid foundation, which is I guess where the culture plays into. But after 4 years on the flooring side, there was a natural transition coming back to from having my son in 2022, where it made sense for me to just transition to equipment because we'd kind of gotten the whole flooring thing down as far as we're attaching to a lot of weight room projects, and we have a good product line. I know a stupid amount of detail on the life of a tire, and flooring can be cool, but it'll never be as intriguing and fun as the equipment side. And that's what all the coaches get excited about too. I mean, it is really cool to see us build something and have our wizard Jason Giacomonis just like work his magic. And if you get a chance to build an entire room with us, like the ins and outs and the questions, and it's so cool to see everyone's mind working together. But let's see, where was that? Oh yeah, okay. So that was 2022. I've been an equipment rep pretty much until the end of this past fall. My husband's career and role grew a little bit more over the last few years, and I think the best way to put it is this is where we land today and what you and I first had this conversation about. Through the baby toddler stage of life that I'm in right now, being the emergency parent was extremely important to me. The thought of traveling every other week as an outside rep and not having a consistent plan for our family weighed super heavy on my heart. And it that's where all these postpartum emotions come into play. Um, and we had, I want to say, maybe it'd be like the first 3 to 4 weeks of coming back from maternity leave. So this must have been August, August to September. I, you have this wave of, especially when they're a newborn, you're like, I'm supposed to leave them now after 3 months and just get back to work. And my breastfeeding journey changes, and it's like all these crazy things that are very life, like this is like I'm a mother to this child, keeping them alive, and then I'm getting thrown back into work now. Mind you, no one, this is all in my head. This is not a Sorinex thing. This is just me getting really having this buildup of emotions about like what, I wasn't, no one expected me to travel for the rest of the year for the most part, but as a sales rep, but like then it came to a moment where I said, what then? Like what happens in January? I mean, am I just going to pick it up and keep going and travel every other week? Um, it's, but if I'm not an outside rep, who is Britt? Who am I? What value do I have? What was the point in the last 10 years of my life? And if I gave it all up, what am I going to tell my daughter in 10 years? And I wasn't thinking of really leaving Sorinex, but you just have this existential crisis as a parent and especially a mother of, uh, well, this is the most important thing to me now. And now I have two. It was a very big difference between having one. With Bo, it's almost like you're just adjusting to like, how do I keep my life more normal with this alien that I just had? And then and then you have two and you're like, oh, this is, we're just going in full swing. Nothing matters anymore except for them. And um, but like, what am I going to tell her in 10 years if that did all change? Like once upon a time, I was a pretty good sales rep for a pretty cool company. I mean, and I seem very calm saying this now, but I could have cried about this, in September of last year. Um, I've never had a typical 9 to 5 job. I don't think anyone at Sorinex feels that way. So now what? And well, that's where being a part of something bigger and finding the right fit for a career really pays off. That conversation with Josh and Bert when I was in September, when I was like, I have to talk to you about something and I don't really know how to explain it. I was emotional. I was, because I'm asking what it's so hard for me to get the words out and admit that like I'm different and I don't know how y'all are gonna see me and
Mm.
how if I can't be the outgoing outside sales rep, that's just I mean, what place do you have for me here? It was it was as simple and smooth as it ever could be. And it it's I know how lucky I am to say that. But again, it goes back to like it was in my head, like the buildup of it. And I know that other people do not have the same opportunities, but I can imagine any mother has these emotions, but I am very lucky to have been able to have a very open and honest conversation and then get the feedback that's like, we're not letting you go anywhere. Um, it's okay. Like
Yep.
we've all had kids. Like
Yep.
we've witnessed from the other side like
Yep.
this phase of life you're going through. And um so yeah, that's how I've landed here. I would say I'm technically like labeled as business development, but really what's turned into this idea that you are now a strong part of. It was it kind of also brings a full circle to our educational team. Um, and Bill Gillespie's been doing his own thing for a
Yep.
while. Brandon Lilly's been doing his own thing for a while. And when I brought this idea that was a little thing on the back burner for the last few years, because I just was too busy as a sales rep. So this professional development concept just kind of like floated on back there and like, oh, if I have time one day. But now it was kind of like, well, look at all three of you. You have different, it's a little triad of different valuable relationships and information that can now you guys almost complete an actual education division or
Yeah.
team, so to speak. But um, yeah, that's where we landed. I can always keep talking about this the next phase of how we got, how you spoke for me on Tuesday night. But um, yeah.
I love it, Britt. You just went right there. Like
I,
you,
I
We'll go.
actually was Bert's been, he's a seen vet at podcast. So I
Yeah,
called him earlier this week and I was like,
yeah,
is there something, any advice you have on me? Because this is the first time I've been recorded one-on-one. And he was
yeah,
like, just make sure your timelines are right so that you lay it all out and don't actually miss say like different, he's like, that's stuff that I learned that if you just take some time earlier in the week to write it out, and now I'm like, well, I could just keep going on forever.
yeah. Well, I want you to, and I don't want to stop you because you are tapping into something you and I talked about when I said, Britt, I'm going to have you on the podcast because we were meeting about the professional development series and we got to talking about some other things. You got to talking about being a mom, the identity stuff, the time and the management. I said, there are a lot of people in the role that I'm in that need to hear what they need to hear that conversation. And so you are going there. I love it. Um, I wanted people to understand that we have to work together to figure things out. We have to care about people. We have tasks there's a job, there's a task, there's a career, there's responsibilities, but there's a person that is making all of that work. And do we take the time to show our appreciation for the demands that are going to be on different people? The demand on you versus the demand that would be on me when you're trying to start a family are different. Can we? I was in a situation where we had a staff member. She was expecting her first, I believe, and maybe the second, maybe because when the second one comes along, things definitely change. Uh,
Kids sick all the time. Everybody's sick. There's always snot everywhere.
everywhere. So I just thought that should be something I want to get out there, and I want people to hear, and I want them to consider. How do you care about a person that you're working with, making sure that they have options? So I remember thinking and telling my coworkers, we're not who we say we are if this person can't do their job and start a family, have a family, start a family. We're not who we say we are. Oh, we're a family environment. We really care. Okay, now this person needs some time away to be able to make sure they can manage their family responsibilities. What are we going to do to make sure that that person can step away without being feeling some the guilt and all that comes with being away? How can we help to mitigate that, minimize that, make sure, hey, we've got your back. Don't worry about it. We're gonna we've got your back. And
Yeah.
so I feel good about the culture we've been able to create now, so much that the women who've been on maternity leave and have maybe didn't, or the ones that didn't quite, if they're older, didn't quite have exactly what they needed at that time, they look at the guys they work with and say, no, you're going on paternity leave. Like, do not come back. Like, you're
Yep.
taking your 3 weeks. You're going to go home and help your wife. Like, there's a pressure to you're gonna take time and be with your wife. You're not going to put your job ahead of your family, and that takes effort and awareness and intentionality.
Hmm.
So that's why I really wanted you on here, because I wanted to have this conversation. I want coaches out there to really reflect, really, especially when you work in athletics, which can be a male-dominated profession, um, where you work at Sorinex. It can be that way, lifting weights. But do you have the leadership
Yep.
and the right culture of care and appreciation for the person you're working with, that their life is as important as the company's success. Like, the company has to succeed, but the people have to be there to make the company successful.
Yep.
Is it a full circle? So let's go back to something. Let's go back. because I want to get into the psychology of a soccer player and and what and just athletes in general, why that experience plays a significant part in the success with certain roles that you've had or um, ideas like you being an athlete definitely set you up to be able to do certain things and have the success you're having. So, what is it about soccer though that you think like, all right, you all are running all the around the field all the time. Uh, you rarely get a break. Uh, you have to know your position, your spacing, your teammates. There's communication. Like there's something special about being a soccer player that, and how does that translate?
So, oh my gosh, the one thing I'll say about soccer is that you are your greatest moments are almost fluid, just fluid, natural moments where everyone is so in sync that they know each other so well. It like drives your adrenaline. Uh, it's sometimes I felt there were certain practices through college that I knew that our team like we just knew each other so well. But we also had gone through, there's the idea that you go through a lot. I mean, excuse me, when you are peeing your pants or taking a number two in your pants while getting doing physical testing on a track. Now, we did there's the guys team, the men's team had these experiences too. It is so funny, but it's like the physical demand of, the fun part is playing and when you're practicing and you're doing, 4v4, 8v8, maybe we're even doing like an 11v11 setup. That's the fun part. The worst part is when they say shins off, you know, it's time to get on the line, or it's preseason and you're doing your beep test or so I'm sure they still do the beep test. It's like I have a little bit of PTSD from it. I can hear it in the background. We did 800s or 120s, and those were just like when you the camaraderie from going through some like trauma is a bad way to put it, but like really hard when you do really hard, it's the same as like Winter Strong, you do really hard things together, you build a much deeper friendship than just like, oh, the soft fake or short conversations. This is you're embedded. That's why I believe that college teammate friendships before the kids, before the
Yeah.
marriages, they stand the test of time because you are potentially your worst self in college because you're like, I got the freedom to be independent, but I'm also going to test it because I have no real responsibilities. So, like if you loved me then like we're friends for life. Um, and this is, I would say that like entering into any type of field that's very demanding. And as a strength coach, that is just that's like the number one description is like, this is a demanding career. You are going to have to wake up you have to be energetic and positive at 5:30 a.m. So we're also going to need you to be the same way by 6:30 p.m. And then if our practice runs over and you need to cool the team down an hour later, then that's just what the role is.
Yeah.
So I would say it's not, being on the sales side and the vendor side ever since college. I mean, it wasn't that demanding, but I believe it goes into uh, if it were easy, everybody would do it. Um, I would say that's part of my like internal motto. If it were easy, everybody would do it. But that's why they don't, and that's why I
Mm.
am.
Ooh.
Um, in college, okay, this actually goes back to where I mentioned to you. There's something I would love to dive in deeper with D-Love. Uh, I've never gotten the chance to put my words out there, so hopefully he listens to this someday. Um, it all me landing at Sorinex and knowing that whatever company, even before that, that I really like ran my career out with was going to be with someone who just had this deeper embodiment of passion and roots and strength, and it's like, but what is it about like weightlifting and training that like makes me feel this so passionate, and why do I care so much? Oh, I hope I didn't get too emotional when I say this, but my freshman year of college, I was 18. I was always the youngest in because my birthday's in August. So spring of freshman year, I blew out my ACL, my MCL, and lateral medial meniscus. Um, that is actually not that big of a deal for other things that were going on in my life. My dad was dying of cancer. He had roughly a year left. 2 years prior to that was when they were telling us that we don't know how long, but it's going very downhill. Um, I was already just too young to understand, like, I mean, you're just so immature. There's so much I wish I would have known,
Yeah.
wish I would have done better as a daughter. But um, I also was like simultaneously, so this is June. This is probably April of 2010. Um, so I blew out my knee. Our head coach was going to get fired for women's soccer. So uh, my brother, which I'm also going to state that I wasn't mature enough to grasp yet, but there was a lot of mental illness and addiction starting with my older brother. I was 18 and I would say that I've always been like this. Maybe on the outside, you would never know what really is happening. What is her story? And I am the way that I am because I know how different things can be internally versus externally. And um, that was a very young age to have such harsh life experiences and still not even have the tools to understand what was going on. So blowing out my knee, knowing that it wasn't just a quick ACL tear and you're back. I mean, nowadays, like girls are playing in 5 months, 6 months
Yeah.
and you're not even wearing a brace anymore. I had pretty much my whole life go up in flames in a way, and I was not mature enough to understand everything going on. But Oh, I also had just found out their testing came back from so this is all in April of
Yeah.
2010. Testing came back of why I was struggling so hard at Clemson. I have severe ADHD and I never was treated for it growing up. The only reason I even got to play at Clemson was just because I mean I made it out of into college because I was pretty good at soccer.
Yeah.
So finally, that was actually a good moment in April was learning that there's a reason behind why I'm struggling so hard at school. And I mean, as an AD and as a former, you understand all the people that are supporting athletes through
Yeah.
every step. I am extremely thankful for them to have paid attention to me and for them to have said, this girl needs us. And that's where D-Love comes into play because I know that there were a lot of other people, but in my history, in my mind, like my mentor, and you spoke about this the other night on our talk, like I am who I am because of D-Love. And, you know, he, I think he just knew, well, there's a part of him that is very much like fake till you make it. I don't want to hear any excuses.
Yeah.
We're all here, we're all doing it, so you're all going to do it together. But I actually think that might be his humble approach. But I think he knew that if he could not step in to mentor me and show me that he cares, that I don't just disappear into the background. Um, he I just, if it weren't for him, I would have disappeared. I can't say, again, I was too young to really grasp how bad things were. But every day I woke up and it just was, despair, and I'm 18 and it's everyone, when a coach is gonna get fired,
Yep.
teammates start leaving, and I mean it was a very hard spot to be in and not know where to go. And then I was also very sensitive and my family, I couldn't just call my mom and dad. My dad was I had to put on the happiest face and positive attitude I could around them because I didn't want them to know how I was struggling with this other stuff while he's dying and my mom is taking care of him. You said your dad I mean, is in a good place right now,
Yep.
but you
Yep.
understand cancer and how hard that can take the toll on a family, and especially a family that in some degree is falling apart. Um, and if it weren't for D-Love, I would have never had any type of solid ground. Because once I got past the first few months post-surgery, it was, I remember him saying, you need time at home, but you have a place here at the end of June to come back, and we're going to do 2 days every day. Um,
Wow.
and we have a great unity between sports med and Olympic sports at Clemson. So, again, it wasn't just my rehab was a meshed program, but that summer he gave me a place to be in a time. I came back from a little time at home when I was still, hobbling around on crutches, and then it was time to go to work. And in an injury like this, it's not just, let's make you bigger, faster, stronger when you come back. It is like, hey, let's make sure that you get to run around with your kids one day because you didn't just have a clean tear. It
Yeah.
looked like jaws went into your knee. And
Wow.
um I had like 30% of a meniscus, no, 30% of my cartilage like left. And uh, I will say, besides that time and a place that he gave me and mandated that I show up, it was the consistent care and check-ins through that point forward that I knew that he didn't just give to everybody else. And then you fast forward, and I was an athlete that might not ever get to play again in a way of just understanding the injury. Fast forward to the next summer. So this is 2011. It was the NFL lockout. Um, I was staying the whole summer, working the whole summer at Clemson, working all the camps for other sports and for women's soccer. Um, Knowing that I was like, I mean, com I was very recovered by then, but that was from two-a-days all fall season, spring season.
Yeah.
Um, and by that summer, I had lost the brace, and I was during the NFL lockout, all the guys who came back to train with D-Love,
Yeah.
uh, I was pushing cars up the ramp at Jervy and running routes and shuttles with Jarvis Jenkins and Ricky Sapp and all the guys who came back, and it was such a highlight and staple moment in my life that said, like, I owe it to D-Love to try to make an impact in the person he is. Not that I can ever show him the love, but that's where my love for this field started. And that summer coming back, and then that fall, it turned, at that point, my dad passed away in September 19th of 2011. Um, and there, the year before, I was too immature to grasp everything going on in my life. But a year forward in 2011, I was, I mean, looking back, I still was an extremely mature 19-year-old to 20-year-old that had lost a family member, I mean, lost her father and grasped what's really important in life at a time. And so the injury and playing 90 minutes was never like, it almost made me think, all right, we're going to have a lot of injuries. It's women's soccer. I'm going to lead whatever, there's always going to be at least maybe one ACL a season, or I'm going to be a leader to those girls. Every freshman comes in, I'm going to make sure that they know the expectations when we walk into the weight room, and that when we're, during the summer, any type of off-season stuff, like I would be a leader when I could. And then this is actually something that popped into my head when you were speaking the other night about uh, trying to step into places that it's not that you're not invited, but take opportunities to be in the room with people that aren't uh, roles that you might not have any uh, aspirations to step into. Excuse me, got a little. Um, SAC, Student Athlete Advisory Committee, I was part of
Yeah.
that. But then I chose to be, uh, I signed up for debate class with Asian PR. Um,
Mm.
there's like weird things that just kind of played into like, how can I keep challenging myself? And
Yeah.
then I chose to be on the student council, so the student athlete representative for student council and the board of trustees within the school and the
Yeah.
university. Um, so Dan Radakovic was hired as our AD through and there was a lot of coaching changes during this phase. So men's and women's soccer both got whole new staffs. I think track and field, men's and women's no, men's basketball got a new coach. This was a big turnover time for Clemson athletics. And I I tried to be a part of anything that I could. I don't even know why, or where I was like, what it's it just was, if I can play a role, or if that's an opportunity, then I'm just gonna step in and see what happens. Um, It led me into meetings. So the board of trustees meetings, I was the student athlete representative. So I'm listening and on the $90 million football project for when they built that football ops building. Because at the time, West End Zone had just got done my freshman year. And football just moved out that summer that I started. And I got to see how the money was spent and where it comes from. And IPTE, I mean,
Yeah.
what goals, and I got to see where they're looking at placing facilities on the land, and
Yeah.
that was this key moment where I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. But oh, there was a bunch of this is when all the NCAAs, this is the first talks of like paying athletes,
Yeah.
and got dropped down for SAC and then for the athletic director, and then uh universities to kind of like vote on. So I was at every phase early on of all this stuff and just got to watch it, and it sparked something in me. But again, it didn't mean that I knew I wanted to get into this field, because I didn't know what Sorinex or play was. I just uh it opens up little niches of it's like you grow up thinking there's a police officer, there's a firefighter, there's
Yeah.
a doctor and a lawyer, and you
Yeah.
can choose to do those.
Yeah.
It starts opening up the doors to be like, wow, that's I never really thought about that. But all this to say, uh the very beginning with D Love, and the interest he took in saving me in a very heartbreaking moment of my life, and where it felt like everything was falling apart. I mean, my entire life was soccer, and then it was going to get ripped away from me, and then I was also going to go home if I didn't go back to play for that fall season, and we had a new coach, and I didn't have a place, and he didn't want injured players, and I didn't have a scholarship. I would have to move home, grapple and see my dad in his last moments. And it was, he just can't, I can't tell you how much it meant for the impact of my strength coach, D Love,
Yeah.
and what, I mean, I would not be the woman I am here today. All of
Yeah.
those opportunities of getting hired by Play, move like being here at Sorinex and what I'm doing now, to not say that everyone out there, all of you that, I mean, mostly coaches are probably strength
Yeah.
coaches would listen to this. I mean, if you have one of me a year, which you do,
Yeah.
you're changing lives because the strength coach role is one that has no liability. It's the same way your trainers hear the most gossip because we're allowed to just tell you how we feel, be ourselves when you step into the weight room. And um, you're not holding all the cards. You're not going to kick us off the team. Like, and you're the mentors that don't put the extra pressure on us. And so my mentor, it made me know that whatever I do in the future, like I have to make sure that like I give back and to the to him.
Yeah.
It might not be him, but it's
Yeah.
my strength coach. And that's where that's why I've stayed in this industry for so long. That's why when I was leaving, I knew that it might be my time to leave Play. I knew I had held standards for where I wanted to be because like no matter what, it wasn't ever about the money. It was about like me being in a place where we really made a difference. And I was surrounded by people who are always going to, the underlying factor is making a difference. And um under what's the best way to put this? Um, it's, I don't know. It's that's where my that's where I got here, and
Yeah.
that's where the root of it all was as an athlete. So I don't know if that's what you expected when I shared this story about uh as a college soccer player, college
Yeah.
athlete, how I got here, but um that's the underlying factor was that I'm doing it. It all started because of D Love, and I okay, here this is how I'm trying to put it. When I came back from having Addie, this with two kids now, that very simple line I told you earlier about, asking her if I telling her I was just a sales rep, a pretty good one for a pretty cool company, you know, finding out what my identity is if I'm not just a sales rep, telling my kids about this one day, I have to leave something behind that really matters because even just building weight rooms and cool equipment, like it's awesome, but that's really not it's not enough, I guess. Um, and so I started making calls um, in prep and Bert. And Ash at LSU, I remember calling, we always bounce around ideas and like vent about stuff every now and then. And, I've got some coaches in my circle that have when I first met them, they were interns and GAs, and I was like
Yeah. Yeah.
a nobody post college, like working for this company that sells flooring. I don't even know what I was doing. Um, but, called a couple people. I remember asking her, what do you need? I mean, and I remember saying, I am Switzerland. I I work for a company that has some pretty good connections. Um, you're the people I really want to make sure that no matter what happens in this existential crisis of my mind on what am I doing with my life next. And there was no, and there was nothing, no plan at that point. I just was feeling all these emotions, knowing that I needed to talk to Bert and Dobby about this soon, but like I'm still gathering my thoughts together. And I was like, what? Tell me honestly, what do you need? And she was like, the life skills, we need the real information. It's like, and a good way to say is that I'm not actually a carpenter, but I have all these tools to use and I know some pretty good builders like yourself. Um, so like I don't want to throw them away, I don't want to throw all these tools away like they're too valuable. So what do I do with all this? And the second she said that, I then was like, oh my gosh, my wheels started turning of all these moments that I was sitting in that office that I probably didn't need to be in, or sitting at the table listening in to coach. There's little moments of my career where I'm almost it's unnecessary for me to see it and watch it happen. I've been very thankful and it's been really cool, but like I don't, as someone who's not a coach, how this is like it's too good. Um, there's been, you know, I there's this one moment too where I was in a meeting with a four-star general. Um, Darren, you might have met Darren Peterson at Winter Strong. He is the director of performance for School of Infantry. Um, I got to listen in onto this meeting. It must have been 7 years ago, 6 years ago, um, where they are breaking down the taxpayer dollars. So it was one of those, like, we had a meeting to talk about some stuff on upgrading a facility. They didn't even have a training room or a weight room for a School of Infantry yet. Um, he was like, how much time do you have? Well, I've got the anytime a coach asks me that, if I'm in a meeting for a 10-15 minute, that's like, well, that means I'm just gonna clear my schedule for the rest of the day.
Yep.
Like, oh, like do you have somewhere to be later? Like that's the sign that says I have no plans. It was all for you. Even if I had people to go see, nope, I've always had that in my head that if someone asks you that, you take advantage of the moment. Um, well, I sat in on that meeting and it was breaking down female injuries so these are the 18-year-olds
Yep.
that are getting enlisted at the Marine Corps base. Then they're getting shipped to Paris Island for training. They are getting destroyed there. They are having injuries from the very beginning of, these aren't college athletes. These aren't the one percenters. These are just kids who might not have even been physically tested at all in their life. And they're then getting sent down to survive at Paris Island, getting injured. And then it was this like full circle meeting where I just got, oh my gosh, blown away by like, we are then paying this much for an injured Marine to then take a desk job 5 years later, 6 years later. And then it was it was one of those moments where I was like, I shouldn't be here, but I am, and I'm going to keep this in the
Yep.
back for the future. There are many of those moments throughout my career where I've just felt I have no use for this, but I need to share it with others. And when she said, it's just like, us not learning about taxes and, um, like when we're in high school or in college, like that should be general education. There's so much. Oh my gosh, your talk earlier this week was just an open door of all of these things. I made little notes. It's taken me longer to put my bullet points because I almost want to be like, we really need to have Pat do this again. We need to, highlight this. But that's where all of this comes full circle with when she said that, all of these moments that I've kept in in the back of my head were like, I need to find a way to to bring to use all these tools that I have and make sure that the right people get to obtain the information and get a chance to learn the stuff that you don't, these coaches don't hear this on at a clinic every weekend, or a CSCCA or NSCA. I mean, it's very valuable information that they share, but this is like you mentioning becoming better friends with your HR
Yep.
and the value it in going and putting a smile on your face and walking into those rooms. Listen, that's how I got to where I'm not saying I'm anywhere fancy, and I haven't, there isn't some like crazy, I love what I do and I'm very thankful for that. But like, I'm still to some degree, I feel like somewhat of a nobody, but I will tell you that my good vibes and the smile on my face has pretty much gotten me everywhere.
Yep.
Um, and the things that you kept saying, I'm going to give you all this before I can give you these other details. Those upfront ones were the most important, you know. Um,
Not
and
the
it,
ones that people necessarily wanted to hear.
yep,
I don't care. I can't give you what you want. I got to give you what I believe you need.
yep. It was
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Dissecting your talk earlier this week was really cool to re-listen to and um, take notes on because it all of the snippets of that were it's it's the reason I've come to this landing point of okay, I have some time. I'm it's now my time to be able to connect the dots and at least put some more information out there. What anyone does with it, that's, I just want to make sure that there comes a time where I don't have any regrets
Yeah.
on these experiences. And it is these professional development talks. I really need to come up with a name for this series. I don't have one yet.
I don't think you do. I think your passion is there, your purpose is there. Sometimes it's hard to put a name on something when it's just coming from your heart. Like this is coming from your heart. And this is something that you have been anointed to do. Like you've been called to do this. So, and I've heard it throughout this entire podcast that we're doing today. You've covered so many things. This is exactly what I think people need to hear. But I can tell you this, for me doing the podcast, yes, it's for coaches. Yes, it's beyond sets and reps. And yes, but this is my journey of discovery and I'm sharing it with people. And I think for you, as long as you can keep it close to your heart and your purpose and your passion, don't worry about what the name is. Don't worry about who the next guest is. You have things that you are on this path of discovery, and you're bringing other people in to have conversations as you are on this path, and it will never get old. It will just like for me, because people the conversation that we had a few months ago, I'm like, Britt, I got to have you on the podcast. You're like, what? No, I'm calling you about being on. Like, no, you you have answers to this quest that I'm on of discovery, this journey that I'm on. I need to hear your story. And if I need to hear it, there are other people that are going to hear it. They need to hear it. So I think this is reciprocal. I appreciate you so much. Uh, we're going to have to do another podcast because I feel like you are just getting to the point of wanting to talk about what you're doing now. But we're going to cut people off. Sorry, you all. They're going to have
Yep.
to be a part 3 and 4, but that's okay because next time we have a chance to reconnect and pick up the conversation,
Yeah.
there's going to be more that you discovered.
Well, and I'll leave you with this because there is a lot more, and I realize how long it took to get through this explanation of how I got here. But um, you and I first talked when I gave you the list of topics. I knew what I wanted you to do first, and I knew you were the right person to do it for my this series I've started. But for how to ask for a raise, which I realized I didn't mention that at all in this our talk today. So for listeners, uh, Coach did a Zoom call with a small group of coaches earlier this week where the topic was how to ask for a raise, and it was all the way from his experience in that subject to the the explanation of from an admin side. Um, and the behind the scenes stuff, but there's also so much more that can be looked into. But then what I really want to circle back and do another talk with you on is going to be uh, I loved hearing your way of staging and supporting females on your staff. And I do think you have a great example of what it should look like across the board to other schools. So
Yeah.
part of me is like, man, we really need to talk about that again too, because
Yeah.
these are the topics that I'm getting to for all of these in the future is, how to support, how to address paternity leave with HR,
Yeah.
with how to know understand your rights. Um, my biggest thing when coming back from Bo was now that I was a mom, that's like what I talk about to coaches all the time. And then they talk about their parents' journeys and their, female coaches are talking to me about their motherhood stuff. And
Yeah.
it all's like some of them have been bad experiences
Yeah.
and that's heartbreaking. And so that's where honestly that moment of motherhood post Bo and hearing those stories of juggling it and it's I mean, you mentioned one thing with me earlier on this year when I called you about you feel like your female uh, staff have even been better postpartum. Better as in like
Yeah.
there's a long discussion for that. But
Yeah.
it's about the maturity and the understanding of like, wow, your priorities are different because you are now in charge of someone else's actual life from a day-to-day
Yeah.
perspective. And he's like, that should be valued as
Yeah.
a AD. Um, that should be you want to value that and you have implemented and supported that and are a great example of what other programs and administration should, you know, lead
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that, we have a lot more to talk about, but
Yeah.
I guess I'm glad I got to tell you part of my story today.
No, you are awesome. Thank you so much for sharing it. Bert always talks it. We want people to go there, and you went there. So
I
that's
did.
really cool.
I don't get
And
a
shout out
chance
to
to
D
talk about
Love.
that side. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
shout out to D Love.
I'm
Make
gonna
sure
have
he gets
to.
this.
I do too.
Yeah,
It feels good to share it, even though
yeah,
it's not something I talk about often. But
yeah,
thank you,
yeah,
Pat.
yeah,
We have more to go on in the
yeah.
future. So
Absolutely. Britt, you take care. You have a great day, and look forward to the continued growth in your journey, and keep doing those wonderful things and helping people that are out there. Helping people is a tremendous honor. So thank you.
thanks, Coach.
All right, take care.